Today we are going to be talking about graphing linear inequalities. Mine is going to be on page 10. There are a few things that we need to remember about linear inequalities and what the solutions mean. A linear inequality is similar to a linear equation, but we're using an inequality symbol. And those inequality symbols could be less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. A solution to a linear inequality is basically going to be all of the ordered pairs that make the inequality true. So it's really any ordered pair that appears in the shaded region. So let's talk a little bit about how we graph. I'm going to give you this sheet of paper and you want to go ahead and glue this into your notebook. So the first thing we want to remember is that if we have an inequality, we want to make sure that it is in slope intercept form. Remember that that's y equals mx plus b. Now in this case it could be greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. And we want to be sure to flip the inequality symbol if you multiply or divide by a negative number. The second step is we want to graph the line. Now there's two ways to graph. We want to use a solid line for less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to symbols. What this means is that I can actually be equal to anything that's on the line. Where we want to use a dotted line for less than or greater than. So this means that anything that's on the line is not actually included in our solution. So then we take a look at how to shade. We're going to shade above the line for greater than or equal to symbols, and we're going to shade below the line for less than or equal to symbols. What does all of this look like? So below you're going to see 4 pictures and I will explain each one. Remember to pause at any time to write down any extra notes. So what the dotted versus solid line and greater than versus less than look like. If I have, we'll look at these two. If I have greater than, that means that my line is dotted and I'm shading above the line. If I have less than, that means that I have a dotted line and I'm shading below the line. The direction of the line has nothing to do with the inequality symbol. If I have greater than or equal to, then I have a solid line and I'm shading above. If I have less than or equal to, I have a solid line and I'm shading below. So the biggest difference between the greater than and the less than is greater than is shaded above. So we're going to note that we shade above. And here we shade below. On the left side, we have dotted, and over here we have solid because they are or equal to. So that's the biggest difference with our less than, greater than, and our or equal to. Now we're going to take a look at 4 examples. You'll get a sheet of paper, cut out your graphs, and go ahead and glue them into your notebook one at a time so you make sure you leave enough space. The first equation I'm giving to you is in slope-intercept form. Y is greater than 1/2 x plus 2. We're going to graph this just like we would a regular equation, but we want to make note the fact that this needs to be a dotted line, because it is a greater than symbol and we want to shade above. I left some space because what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down what is my slope and what is my y-intercept. My slope is positive 1/2, and my y-intercept is 0, 2. So I'm going to start by graphing my y-intercept. 0 on the x, up 2. Use my slope, rise 1, run 2. And I'm going to do that a few times so that I have a few points that I'm going to connect with a dotted line. So as you can see here, I'm using a piece of paper and I'm not connecting it. I am creating a dotted line with arrows on either side, and I'm going to shade above. Above means up. So I'm just going to fill my graph in with the area above. It doesn't have to be fancy, just 2 lines. You can squiggle if you want. And that is y is greater than 1/2 x plus 2. Example 2 is not in the proper form, so in order for us to graph this, we need to actually solve for y first. So we are going to subtract 2x from both sides. That is going to leave me with a negative y is less than or equal to negative 2x minus 2. And I'm going to divide by a negative 1 on everything, which is y. Because I divided by a negative 1, I need to flip the inequality symbol so it becomes greater than or equal to positive 2x plus 2. So this is the equation that we're going to graph. My m is 2 over 1. My b is 0, 2. I have a solid line because it is greater than or equal to, and I'm going to shade above. So I'm going to graph 0, 2. My slope is up 2 over 1. Remember, we want a few points here, or down 2, left 1. This time around, I can actually connect all of these with a solid line. It doesn't have to be dotted. So I'm going to connect these arrows on both sides, and I want to shade above. And so here is an example of greater than. Here is an example of greater than or equal to. The difference, dotted versus solid. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at example 3. Example 3 is in the form that I wanted in. So I want to state what I have. My m is negative 3/5. My b is 0, negative 2. I'm going to be a dotted line because it is less than, and I'm going to shade below because it is less than. So I'm going to graph this as if it's a regular equation. I'm going to go down 2 on the y-axis, and for my slope, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, and to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm also going to go up 3, and to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This time when I connect it, remember it's a dotted line because it is less than. So I'm going to make it a dotted line with arrows on both sides. And when I shade this, it is going to be below. Last but not least, example 4. Example 4, just like example 2, is not in the form that I wanted in, so I need to make this a y equals. So I'm going to subtract x on both sides. That leaves me with 4y is less than or equal to negative x minus 4. I'm going to divide everything by 4. And that is going to leave me with y. Because I divided by a positive, I don't have to flip this inequality sign. Is less than or equal to negative 1/4 x. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So my m is negative 1/4. My b is 0, negative 1. I have a solid line, and I'm going to shade below. So I'm going to plot 0, negative 1, and my slope is negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, to the right 4, or I could go up 1 to the left 4. And remember that I can do a solid line here. Connect with arrows, and it is less than or equal to, so I can shade below. So here we have 2 positive graphs and 2 negative graphs, because my slopes are negative and my slopes are positive up here. I also have, let me zoom out just a little bit. I also have 2 where I shade above, 2 where I shade below, 2 dotted and 2 solid. So we will have extra practice in class.